how much more do you appreciate that? Because you say you have to go over these obstacles and all this. You're just like, you don't go through it now, but it's like now you know if you have to go through the graveyard shit, like you know you can do it.
I think any type of exposure is just what it is. We should not normalize whenever a child is exposed to pornography. Normalizing it is not something that we as a society should have ever been doing, and I think we, unfortunately have ended up where we are because we have normalized a lot of behaviors being done to children.
So I think it's on the parents' responsibility, to explain to their kids, yes, there's all this information going around about in society that people might think it's okay, but I'm gonna be real with you, it's not okay.
Yeah. Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Totem Podcast. As you can see, we got a new studio, new place. Today is the actual official podcast that we have in here. What's up, Eric?
What's up, dude? I'm pretty excited. It's our first official podcast in the new studio, so I'm pretty excited for everybody to see what we got going on here. Looks a lot better. But before we get started, guys, remember that we are on YouTube and Spotify. If you guys like the conversations we're having, if you guys want us to keep bringing in more interesting guests, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, especially if you like today's guest and maybe agree or disagree with some of what she has to say. But make sure to smash that subscribe button, guys, because that way you can be notified every single time we upload a new video to our channel, so you guys can be on top of it. And if we bring you value, if you learn something, made you laugh, made you think or anything, please share with one other person. That's all we ask for. That's the only fee we have here on the podcast. And just remember that our motto here on the podcast is that an act of rebellion is to question, which we're going to be doing today.
So, a lot of it today. Yeah, today we got the perfect guest for that today. If you guys know of her, it's been all over the place. And if you don't know of her, you need to know of her. So, Alejandra, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me. Alejandra Santana.
So for the people who don't know who you are or what you do, can you just give a little brief explanation about who you are and what you do?
So Alejandra Santana, I am a mother of two. I have recently resigned from the Brush School District Board of Education due to moral and ethical reasons. I am a self-employed massage therapist and esthetician. I've recently actually only mostly offering massage and waxing services because I've relocated.
Cool. Great. So tell me a little bit about this. Let's start a little bit further back before we get out of track. Tell me a little bit about your childhood, how you grew up.
So I was born in Julesburg, Colorado. After I think I was had to been about a year old, we moved back to Mexico, where both my parents are actually from Mexico. We went to Michoacan, which is where my pretty much all of my dad's side of the family is from. Once we were there, I think we were there until I was about 6 years old, which was when my dad got out of prison. Definitely not an ideal Morgan County childhood. I definitely, Spanish was my first language. Everything I grew up with knowing until I was 6 years old was all Mexico. And then after that, we moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, until I was in sixth grade. And then in sixth grade, we moved to Brush, Colorado, and been there pretty much ever since.
So you've been kind of all over the place then?
A little, yeah.
So
my older brother was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico, so that's how we had relocated there. And like I said, all of my dad's family is from Michoacan, so that's how I spent basically my childhood there.
And then how did you decide to open up your own business and that stuff? Because being your own opening up your own business and being your own boss isn't really what everybody thinks it is, probably just based on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff.
Yeah,
they see the
definitely.
glory, but they don't see what actually goes on in the back, behind the scenes.
Definitely. Hard work. So I had my son when I was 19. I've been with my husband for now I think we're going on about 20 years. Woo!
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Thanks.
That's
Definitely, just like any other marriage or relationship, it's always up and downs. And definitely, unfortunately, spent the majority of my 20s kind of trying to get over my fucking fucked up childhood. So, yeah.
As a lot of us do.
Yes. But I've been extremely fortunate that I somehow found a man that loves and appreciates me for who I am.
No, that's great. That's great to hear. I'm just thinking, like, because we're business oriented, transitioning that, your mom to start your own business, you're at that age where you're young. Like, talk to me a little bit about that process. Why did you say, like, hey, I think I want to do my own business? Like,
So
and how
Yeah.
Paul's what his role, I guess, was in it.
So I definitely could not have done it without my husband and his support. So it's, sometimes when I feel like we just kind of make do what we can. And some of us grow up with a lot less, some of us grow up with more obstacles, I guess, than others. And that was a lot of it. And little by little through one job, and then I ended up, my first job was Ebenezer, and little by little then I ended up at Leprino, worked there for about 7 years. Great job, great benefits, a lot of BS, of course, but it is what it is. It's every job. It's every job. It's no matter what. No matter what. Every job, it's always going to be BS, and it is what it is. But because of, honestly, the great benefits that Leprino had, and I want to say it was like their profit sharing, I ended up staying there for pretty much until I was fully vested to be able to pull out my 401k retirement. And we used that money to basically, I pulled money out of my retirement to be able to go back to school, because I did not, I knew making cheese was definitely not what was in my life plan.
I bet it's not in a lot of people's plans.
Yeah.
You don't want to make pizzas for the rest of your life?
Yeah, no. And there's so much science and stuff that goes into that, which is actually pretty amazing. I'm unknowingly kind of become a bit of a science geek. But so it's great. And I was completely grateful for that job, because had it not been for that, I wouldn't have had, the opportunity that I did to go back to school. But, where there's a will, there's a way. And I stuck with it as long as I needed to, and I worked graveyard shift, because that was, we didn't have any family to help us with the kids. So I worked graveyard shift so that, while my husband was at work, I was at home, and basically somehow survived off naps for 4 years while raising kids and going to work and doing what needed to be done.
But how much more do you appreciate that? Because you say you have to go over these obstacles and all this. You're just like, you don't go through it now, but it's like now if you have to go through the graveyard shit, like, you can do it.
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. It's just like,
so it's like I think you have to get drugged through the fucking mud.
Yeah,
to be able.
And that's the thing is like, throughout a lot of things, throughout, I would say the last 10, 11 months, I've had a lot of choices to make repeatedly, and at the end of the day, I'm an adult, and I've been a hell of a lot fucking poorer than what I am now, and I'll figure it out. Like, I'm an adult, I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to get through things. But
so if you don't mind kind of going into it, like, what are some of those choices that you had to make?
I feel like in anybody that's grown up in Morgan County, that when you don't play along and you defy what is expected, it's a choice. And I learned back in May early on in May that the actions that I took had consequences. I knew from the very beginning every choice that I made had a consequence. And as things progressed, and even through May, I would say May was a huge eye-opener for me. And I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'll figure it out. And let's fucking do this.
So the people that's interesting. But for the people that don't know, I mean, let's get the elephant in the room. What happened in May?
Well, before that, I kind of wanted to know, like, why you decided to get on the Brush School Board District. Like, what inside you made you like, hey, I want to be on here. I want to help out these kids.
The last straw was when my daughter was in 5th grade. It was an awful year. My daughter came home crying way more times than she should have. Her teacher was a complete bully. Not only that teacher, her gym teacher was pretty much just as bad. And the amount of times that I had to go into that school to try to figure out why are you talking to my child this way? And basically, I've always raised my kids to have a voice, that whether I'm your mom or not, like, just because I'm your mom doesn't mean I'm right. And you're entitled to your feelings. And if you want to be mad at me, you go ahead and be mad at me. If you need me, say, hey, Mom, I need you to back off for a while, then,
what age did he give your kids like the liberty for this? Like to be like, call me on my bullshit. Like,
as soon as I had them, like, obviously they're not understanding me, but like I said, just because I'm a parent doesn't mean I'm always right. And I make a lot of mistakes, and sometimes we react as parents with it's not really us reacting, it's the inner child reacting. And I screw up a lot.
Well, why did you decide to do that? Because I feel like a lot of parents are like, oh no, it's my house, my rules, you're going to do shit my way.
Especially in the Hispanic culture.
I think it's because of the Hispanic culture that I was like, no, that's not happening in my house. Like, my child is, like, I grew up basically not ever being able to express my emotions or my feelings or anything. And, like, that's not something that I wanted for my child. So I started off early on. Like, no, just because I'm an adult doesn't mean that I'm right. And just because I'm your parent doesn't mean I'm always right. Like, I make mistakes too.
Yeah. I think that's important because for you guys that are listening to, I don't think you guys really wrap your mind around that thing. That's just because me and Eric talk about it all the time. Just because you're younger, just because you're older, doesn't mean you're mature. Like, maturity doesn't have an age. And it's like, like, how do I put it? Like, having the balls to say I fucked up to your kids is hard. Like, I do with my daughter. Sometimes I'll tell her something, and I'm just like, fuck. I feel bad, and I go tell her, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. And she's just like, yeah. Like, she plays it off, but I was like, no, you don't know. I have to get this off my chest. Like, dude, I'm sorry. Like,
and not everybody's like that, though. Let me point that out, though. Like, not everybody's that open and honest with their kids.
Why?
But
why
it should be. But that's the whole thing. How can we hold our children accountable if we're not willing to hold ourselves accountable?
Because it's too hard.
No, I'm
telling you, this is the narrative people give us.
That's the whole thing. No way. But see, then you're expecting more out of a child than you as an adult are willing to do. Why are we expecting more out of children than we are out of adults?
Exactly.
That's the whole point. Like, the parents and the adults should set the example. Like, hey, just because I'm an adult, I don't have all the answers. Yes. I fuck up all the time. Guess what? I'm human. It's okay. But here is what happened to me, how I, like, pushed through it or whatever, and here's, like, what I did, so you can, like, look at it, improve on it or not. Like, I'm providing you with this information that, like, if you want it, take it. If you don't, leave it.
Dude, and it's easy. It's like, we started a new thing in our house. The currency we have in our house is books. Books read get you paid. My daughter, she broke her tablet. She wants a new tablet. I'm like, I ain't buying you a new fucking tablet. I was like, so I pay her $10 for every book she reads. but you got to write it on the board. If not, it doesn't count. And then so today she sees me reading. She was in the office with me. She sees me reading. What are you doing? I'm reading. That's not working. I was like, oh yes it is. It's working. And so this is like the thing, like you're saying, if they don't see you doing the stuff, like you're gonna be like, hey, you got to read your book. You got to do this. You got to get your exercise in, and they see you fucking up, being a piece of shit.
And that's where that accountability comes into play. Because if she doesn't, if you tell her to read, and then she sees you like just on scrolling on Facebook or whatever, she'll be like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you told me I needed to read, but you're not doing it yourself, so why should I even do it?
Exactly.
So how do we? What's the solution?
You lead by example.
Exactly.
Lead by example. That's it.
And it's interesting.
Personal
it's
accountability.
interesting.
Personal accountability. Because I feel like that's almost like how society has changed. There's no personal accountability. That's how come so many people are not being held accountable. Because how do you hold that person accountable? Because that person can turn around, that person has dirt on you, so then they turn around and point the finger at you, and then before you know it, everybody's pointing the finger at each other, so then everybody just puts their fingers down and we move on.
It's
and
like
I'm like,
the Spider-Man,
no, what the hell?
the
That's
Spider-Man
not supposed
meme.
to happen.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect segue into like the reason you're here today and the reason you become so popular in Morgan County over the past year, and especially this past week. Because if I remember right, the article that was done on you on the Fort Morgan Times has been liked 196 times.
Oh my God.
Has like 85 shares and countless comments. So I mean, it all goes down to what happened last year. So if you could give us a little breakdown on just first of all, just give us the facts on what went down.
Yeah, we can totally do facts. Let's just say maybe everybody's beloved Dr. Wilson has not been given the proper facts. And I have a feeling that a lot of Brush School District staff has not been told everything about their beloved Dr. Wilson.
And Dr. Wilson's the superintendent for the Brush School District, right?
School District, yes. Our beloved Dr. Wilson.
So what's going on with?
So give us a breakdown.
Breakdown.
We did hours of research, but
say,
talk to us like we don't know anything. Like,
okay,
give us a breakdown. What happened?
Facts, right? And then, if I remember correctly, everything that an individual does is the actions of an individual. So, Dr. Wilson and heck of a lot of other people probably do not know the amount of things that an individual has done. So, right, everybody knows the case. So, everybody knows everything started with a safe to tell tip, right? You guys have done research. Mm-hmm. Safe to tell tip, the parent that made the safe to tell tip is me.
So I mean, give us a little context of what it is, because a lot of the audience, like we said, might not know about it.
A lot of them are from Morgan County, so they don't know what's
correct.
going on.
So Safe to Tell is an avenue that created so that a lot of, I guess you can say situations where maybe somebody wants to report, but because of the severity of the matters, you want to remain anonymous, but you want to make sure it's reported accurately. And in order for very important information to be truly investigated appropriately, you have to get everybody involved, right? And how do you make sure that everybody's involved? I would say that anytime you're talking about child pornography, every single person should be involved. It's starting with law enforcement. So
they should, because I think we all have
pornography.
Either we have kids, or we have nieces, we have nephews, we have grandkids. Somebody has some sort of relationship to kids. So it's like, and I think that's for me personally, that's where you draw the fucking line. Like, once you start fucking with the kids, someone's getting fucked up. Like,
it's interesting because both of you are parents, and I'm not a parent, and I'm still like kind of like pissed off, like what's going on is like and all that. So like, for the people who don't know, can you just give like a brief little breakdown of what did happen?
So, back in April, it's a small community, and word travels fast, and as much as we don't like it, rumors circulate, and there's been plenty of times my kids, I come home and I'll ask my kids something, and my son's like, "What? Who told you that? How do you know that?" I'm like, "Dude, I know everything." I'm like, "I'm a mom. Trust me, I know everything."
He's going to be scared not to do anything.
So it's just, and especially nowadays, I feel like with technology, it's almost impossible to not leave some type of a trail behind. And I had received numerous conversations with individuals that believed there was pornographic images of juveniles circulating amongst Brush School District students. And, kind of the way things happen before, one thing, it's just like one person, you're like, it's a rumor. But then more and more things, you start realizing, well, you need to also be an adult, and you should never disregard information like that. And,
was that in between, like, just students like them, and in between them, or in between?
At the moment, far as I knew, yeah,
Okay.
Among students.
Okay.
Among students. And I had, somebody had described, that had seen an image. In my opinion, her child was exposed to child pornography. I think any type of exposure is just what it is. We should not normalize whenever a child is exposed to pornography. Normalizing it is not something that we as a society should have ever been doing. And I think we, unfortunately have ended up where we are because we have normalized a lot of behaviors being done to children, almost like they're not human beings, like they shouldn't have rights because they're children, and they're children.
Do you think it might be a little bit of, I'm gonna push back on that a little bit of the maybe the parents' fault that gives them access to the technology to do that stuff? Like,
because it's one thing for like someone else to take a picture of another child or another minor or whatever, but then it's completely different from that minor to take that picture themselves and then send it out to other people. Because one is like consensual. It's like, I'm taking this picture and I'm sending it to you. What happens after that? It's kind of a gray area, because they did intend it to just send it to that one person, and not to like that for that one person to send it to everybody else. That's kind of a gray area, but that's different than someone else taking a picture of someone else non-consensually and then circulating that.
kind of like
Then consensual sharing becomes unconsensual sharing in a matter of seconds, right? Like, just because you consensually send it to somebody else doesn't mean you control.
They just press forward and it goes out.
What that person does.
Yeah.
The consensual portion was sending it to that
I
one
wouldn't
person.
say it's. I wouldn't say it's like 100% on the parents. I would say it's on society. I feel like society, we have normalized things that we should not normalize. Things are not normal. Like children, taking those type of pictures and thinking it's okay to send them. It's not normal behavior. It's 2023, and there are so many adults that are like, oh yeah, kids do that. I'm like, yes, kids have done that and are doing that, but it doesn't mean that it's normal.
Yeah.
Like, it is not normal.
Yeah.
Here's a little bit
Let
of pushback though, because I do feel like it is a lot more on the parents' responsibility, because yes, it's like the society thinks this is okay. Like society nowadays, they think it's okay to have 1,000 different genders, and it's up to the parents to like actually have those conversations with their kids and be like, hey, actually, there's not 100,000 genders. There's only 2. Like for example, so I think it's on the parents' responsibility, like to explain to their kids, yes, there's all this information going around about in society that people might think it's okay, but I'm gonna be real with you, it's not okay. Like a lot of people are not like sane humans. They have these radical beliefs, and I think it's just up to the parents to be like, have that open conversation with their kids. And up to the parents to have that relationship with the kids to be able to have that safe environment.
Dialogue. I wouldn't say that just because a parent's opinion that there's only two genders doesn't mean that that's what it is, right? Like, there is
an opinion that there's only two genders?
I 100%. Yes, there are male and female genders.
Okay.
100%.
Because I think that where it gets fishy is
we're gonna go real fishy then.
Let's go. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
So, why do we as adults continue to move around our lives when we know that child sexual traumas, any type of sexual traumas, has an effect on our sexual preferences and orientations? So, are we seriously going to disregard the fact that child sexual abuse might have something to do with a child's preference once they're an adult?
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
There's a whole lot of things that I feel like a lot of people are not wanting to address.
No, I completely agree
Children
with what
have
you're
been
saying.
failed for decades.
We're failing the kids. Like I said, not just our kids. Like we said, in the community, you don't even have your neighbors. If your neighbor has kids, you're failing those kids as a person, as a human. Like you just say, "Oh, I don't have kids." Like, cool, yeah, that's a real fucking cool, easy cop-out way to get out.
The amount of adults that have let teachers resign and go on to other districts, and they pat themselves on their back like, oh, well, that's all right. They're not around our kids anymore. And we're like, oh, gee. And you really think that other fucking districts haven't done the same with their people? Like, these are the people that we are literally okay with dropping our kids off at school saying, hey, by the way, if you see this teacher doing anything, make sure you take a picture. Watch out for this teacher. Watch out for that teacher. But what about all the ones that we don't know about? What about all the ones that other districts that resigned from other districts and came to our districts and are around our children? We're not warning our children about that. Like, how is it normal to warn your child about a serial child rapist in their school while we drop them off? It's not a normal conversation. It should not have ever happened.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a normal conversation. Like, you shouldn't.
Especially if these are like staff members that you're trusting your child with for 8 hours, 5 days a week. Going to be 4 days now here in Fort Morgan, but it's going to be 4 days a week. You're trusting your child with these people. It's like, let me get a background check on them. Let me check them out first, see how they are.
Let me see how fucked up they are.
But it depends on whether things were reported appropriately and entirely. And if you guys notice the CDE
what does CDE
paperwork,
stand for?
so Colorado Department of Education.
Okay.
So there's a form that parents can fill out, or parents, anybody, adult, can fill out if they feel basically concerns for staff.
Do they actually get read? Like, do they just get them in the mail and they're just like, fuck this guy, let's go.
That's a conversation for
next.
the Department of Education, Colorado Department of Education.
Okay,
so if you literally read the form, and I don't think the majority of anybody across this nation realizes that for quite some time, for over 10 years, if you had suspicions or, based on whatever your child told you, or, the amount of fucking teachers that have witnessed things, questionable fucking red flags that have done nothing for children across this nation, you are able to file a report. And before, it used to only be that the school district would investigate their own staff. It's almost like we've learned absolutely nothing from history. Like, yes, let's report this to an organization, and the organization is going to investigate themselves and hold themselves accountable. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that fucking goes.
That's worked out fucking fantastic. So that's literally what has been happening, not only in Morgan County, but across this fucking nation.
So going on it, what's the solution, I guess?
Well, for starters, I've realized that the amount of parents that don't realize that, aside from turning in your complaints to your school district, back since at least 2008, I believe, you were supposed to also file a police report, because I want to say the CDE form states that unless there was, I think, something along the lines of basically harm done to a child, which, let's face it, there's a hell of a lot of harm being done to children in schools. You're actually supposed to report that to police. So, Morgan County, parents across Colorado, parents across the nation, if you reported something, sexually inappropriate behavior of any kind, to your district, that's already one check mark off. Let's fucking file that goddamn police report. And let's flood CDE with the fucking forms that we need to, because there are so many adults across Morgan County, across the state, and across this nation that know who the predators are in our schools near our children, and we can do more. We can do more, and it's not okay. We can't be okay with sending them off to another district, because no matter what, they're hurting children.
Well, one reason parents might not take that next step is because they're misinformed, or they don't know that they actually have to
steps to do it.
Yeah, the proper procedures to do stuff. So what's one way we could solve that side of things?
Make it easier for hey, if shit's going on, this is what you have to do, because...
Or inform them of what's going on.
Because honestly, how many people read the handbook? Honestly. Probably fucking not much parents, I feel like.
No. And even after court proceedings and after links being shared, people are still not reading the fucking handbook. Literally, the answers are in front of our faces, and it's like we refuse to see the truth. And we're like, oh yeah, this is normal, it's fine. And we somehow kid ourselves that, well, if I tell my child to be careful around this individual or around that individual, then they'll be fine. But what about all the other kids? What about the kids that have moved here and whose parents don't know about those individuals? How do we as adults justify that as long as it's not our child or our community, it's still a child. It's still a child. It doesn't matter whether I like your parent or not. It should never matter. It is a fucking child.
So do you think maybe parents, say in a classroom, should be together, you know how they do PTO meetings and stuff, but of the parents, just so we don't want no fucking teachers here or whatever, with just the parents, or maybe have the teacher there to just question, be like, hey, what's going on? Instead of teacher conferences individually, let's do a parent-teacher conferences with all 20 parents, and let's see what the parents' concerns are,
But see,
I don't know.
all those parents there's so many parents that have turned complaints into the districts, not only Brush School District, Fort Morgan School District, Weldona, Wiggins, don't think I forgot about you, Prairie. There are so many adults and parents that have turned things into districts. We just need to take the next step and turn it into law enforcement.
Do you think maybe they just have to I don't know if it's legal or anything, but show up in person? Me, we got a business, if I do a phone call or someone calling up, checking up, hey, last time we spoke, we did blah, blah XYZ or whatever. They can just easily ignore my call. But if I just like show up and be like, hey, what's up, man? They don't got anywhere to go.
No.
And then people, they hide behind the phones. They can ignore your call. Or they can do, if you show up in person, like, do you think maybe something like that?
I think even just the fact that board meetings and city council meetings are practically an empty audience. Like,
Well, who
literally,
goes to them? Like,
that's the whole thing. That's my point. Like, individuals are making choices that affect our entire society, our entire community, our kids in school. City council, they make choices as well that affect all of our lives, yet none of us are paying attention to what they're doing, and none of us are doing anything to hold those individuals accountable. We all know that they're basically just benefiting themselves, yet we're turning the other way and we're okay with it. Like, why are we okay with that? Like,
and then just to push back a little, I don't know if we're okay with it, but let me just offer different alternatives. Like, I have a hard construction job, working long days. I just worked a 12-hour shift. I just got home. This meeting's at like in 30 minutes. I haven't ate all day. I just want to go have a nice, it's cold outside. I want to go inside, have a nice warm meal. Like, honestly, fuck the meeting. Like, that's the perspective for a lot of families.
yes.
We're working long hours. We just want
I
a
get
break.
Because, like, I worked graveyard shift for a long time because that's just what I needed to do. We had nobody to help us with our kids, and that's just what it was. Did I attend board meetings? No. But I did my best to try to pay attention to what was going on. So even though I wasn't maybe in attendance of the board meetings, little by little, you can still pay attention. I was 20, I was young and dumb, but as, in my 30s,
Don't worry, I'm still 20.
I remember all of those things. I remember the conversations, I remember a whole lot of things, and I remember a hell of a lot of things from when I was in middle school and when I was in high school, and teachers that were being investigated, and lo and behold, poof, all that's just disappeared. And those individuals are back teaching in our fucking districts.
So I want to go back a little bit about like the whole case and everything, because there is an article on the Fort Morgan Times, but a lot of people need to pay for it because
exactly
for whatever reason or whatever.
No,
so
okay. So if you click on it, that's only if you're on Facebook, probably. But if you put your email in, then you get access to the article.
Come on, Morgan Times. I don't want no fucking spam.
No. All you have to do is don't open it. Okay, so when you click on the Facebook link, you just click to open it in your system browser, and then you read the whole article.
Yeah, I know, but I mean,
that's a lot of extra steps. I don't know.
Really, your children's safety is not.
I'm talking about overall.
An extra step.
Hey, I'm talking about overall general. People
when
people have to click extra links, extra steps, they'll just click off the link.
As a marketing professional, Eric knows that people aren't gonna do that shit.
As a marketing professional, we know people click off and their attention span's very short, and if there's a blocker, they're gonna click off of it. Especially because the headline doesn't explain what actually is going on. That's why I want to get back a little bit into the case about because I feel like people might still not know actually what's going on. So there was a picture circulating around the student population.
No, there's actually more than one picture, and that's the thing that everybody keeps ignoring. There was more than one picture. There was more than one girl. There was multiple girls.
Really?
Multiple boys.
And that's what the article gets wrong then.
And there's other articles, guys.
Oh yeah, we have plenty of articles
Yeah. So there's multiple pictures. Over 31. I think it was 31 images.
That's what I was gonna ask
and
you. Do you agree with these articles?
Multiple. Some. Did you read the part where it said some?
I went through 10 different websites.
It literally said there were some that were not in this district. Why in the F are there 31 goddamn fucking images? Why the fuck are there 31 images? Why are there so many images
Of other girls?
multiple girls and boys? We keep forgetting about boys. Society has let down our boys. And there are so many boys that are being fucking failed. There are so many boys that are being failed, not only in Morgan County, but across this nation.
There's obviously multiple issues with this, but is your issue mainly on like that the photos were circulating around, or was it that like school administrators knew about it, took photos of it, reported it? There was a mix-up there, and then they got arrested. Then they went to court, and they found they acted in the best interest or whatever. Then they found not guilty, and then they were reinstated.
So throughout this whole thing, and then even now, even today, I have no idea what any individual's intentions were, right? Only each individual knows what their intentions were. Intentions could not be proven in court. Like that's irrelevant to me. What you say you were wanting to do or not doing is irrelevant to me. The only thing that's relevant to me is our goddamn Brush School District policy and Colorado fucking state law.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's relevant to me.
That's irrelevant.
Well, here, according to the Colorado Sun, it's like no one had ever accused this individual of bad intent, but under Colorado law, knowingly possessing any explicit image of kids is child pornography, no matter the intent. So if you're trying to be good or bad, whatever, you have it. Technically, according to Colorado law, there should be action taken.
Let's say he had good
not
intent.
Only one, but two administrators.
Yeah, there's two.
Administrators, in case we forget, require additional education, additional licensing, which is why they get paid a hell of a lot more money than fucking teachers. Your license requires you to fucking know Colorado state law. Your license requires you to know that because your license requires you to keep children safe. And it doesn't matter what your intentions were. The only thing that matters is that based on policy and law, you failed children. And your failure to know your duties and responsibilities endangered children. That's the only thing that matters.
That's the thing. I feel like just because you are like applying for a higher position in the school district or whatever, you should go above and beyond the requirements to know what should happen in any case scenario. Because according to the Colorado Sun again, it says Colorado has no mandatory training on investigating school sexting. But I feel like if someone were to actually accept the position of like a school administrator, they should go above and beyond to do that research and to be able to actually be properly informed, so that way the parents and stuff can be more at ease.
So like you said like there's not like a thing for like how to
like a special training.
That's
Correct.
what the Colorado Sun has here in their article, that Colorado has no mandatory training on investigating school sexting.
Yes.
So it's like that's the whole thing. I'm saying
because
like
administrators and school district staff should never be investigating that. It's literally pictures of children.
Technically,
it should only ever be law enforcement that are trained on how to properly investigate. And the reason I chose to make the Safe to Tell tip as a parent was because I know that unless an image with technology is thoroughly deleted appropriately, that image can come up at any time.
To be completely fair, I don't think there's an image that can ever completely be deleted.
No, which is why
once it's online, it's online. And
exactly. So like that's the whole thing is like we need to have so many more conversations with children. We need to have so many more conversations with parents on how easily and how much danger there actually is in that. But like you said, exactly that. So if we know it's already practically next to impossible, like all the more reason that only law enforcement with additional resources for that should be the ones doing it.
And according to, I think it's
Like, I don't know about
CBS
anybody
News.
else, but I sure as hell don't want to be, like, researching or investigating any of that.
Yeah, and according to like CBS News, they say like technically, a school administrator should have no part in investigating that. It's up to the authorities and even state authorities to research that stuff. But supposedly they like submitted it, but then the school officer wasn't like on that like department because there's staffing issues or whatever, which I think is complete bullshit. Like they knew about it, they should have still reported it. Just because you're not technically in the department doesn't mean you can put the shit off.
Oh, there's a whole lot of information that I think we all realize, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't quite make sense. And if it doesn't quite fucking make sense, it's because it doesn't fucking make sense.
And we were talking about it earlier, like about like when you grow up, you have a certain perspective on things, and then as you get older, that stuff changes. What has changed your perspective on things?
For me, my own child sexual abuse traumas, and the amount of individuals that I know that have a history of one form or another sexual abuse traumas. You know, throughout so many decades, like there's literally so many registered sex offenders, but those are only the ones that cases made it through court and the whole 9 yards, right? That's not the ones who maybe the child didn't know the proper anatomy terms for their body parts, or the ones who didn't have a super fancy lawyer to get them off, or the ones who didn't have connections with local judges. You know, all of those.
Is that why you decided to stand up and say something?
I feel like this is decades overdue. Like literally, we like you grew up in Morgan County. Like we can probably in a whole 10 seconds probably name like 10 school district staff between the three of us in probably a matter of seconds, right? Like that's not the future I want for my children. That's not the future I want for any child.
I have a question. So I'm just wondering, like, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of people that are messages that tell you like, hey, you know, this is great and all, and then you got a lot of probably be like, hey, you're full of shit. You know, you've probably gotten a lot.
No, I have actually not gotten one single personal message. I've seen some things, but
not even from me. God
no.
damn it! I
Damn
sent
it.
you a message. God damn. Yeah, I did.
A hate message?
No, not a hate
Oh.
message. I'm saying just a message in general, like
Either
like
in support or
in
hate.
support or hate. You know, I for the record, that's how we got it.
Because a lot of these articles are like,
Dagger.
oh, this case has like split the city. Has it really split, or is there like a slim majority over here and like the major population?
I feel like Morgan County knows just because people are louder doesn't mean they're the majority. And I feel like it's time for change. And I feel like there's a lot of people that see the right and wrong of things. And if we see so much damn corruption, why are we not doing more about it? We can do things effectively and legally. And like doing things the wrong way is not what's going to help our kids. Like we need to do things the right way. And Brush has 3 school board positions coming up in November. And I don't know about how the rest of Brush or Morgan County feels, but the people that got reelected last term, I think that's 4 years too fucking long with individuals that are not willing to do what's best for fucking children.
So in order to like change things like that, wouldn't one of the steps be to be on the school board to kind of attack the animal from the inside?
So anybody that is a registered voter, or you know, if you're a U.S. citizen, if you're not registered vote. You know, we're somehow being constantly told that our vote doesn't matter, but our voice does matter. Like, dirty politicians only stay in politics as long as, like, the nation allows them, right? Like, are we going to continue to let individuals that should not be running our country and leading basically anything, are we going to continue to let them? Or are we going to do what needs to be done and get out of our fucking comfort zones and step the fuck up?
So now let me ask you, since you were already on the inside, you don't think it would have been better just to be like, start cutting bitches at the knees, and then you be like the head of, like, someone with your perspective to be the head of the thing, instead of
come on here and join me, help me out, instead of,
because I'm just saying, like, because from the outside it's hard, but you're on the inside, like, you don't want me here, but I'm gonna fucking be here, and you're gonna have to see me, you're gonna have to fucking watch me, like,
you're gonna have to deal with me, put up with
Dr.
me.
Wilson has not seen the end of me, definitely, and he knows that. He knows how much I have put together. He knows how many many rabbit holes. There are a lot of rabbit holes. He knows a lot, but I don't believe he's sharing a whole lot with other people. And, you know, as long as you're not the main puppeteer, at the end of the day, you're still a puppet. And puppets always go down first before any of the big heads. So
I think Monico's question was more like, why did you decide to step down instead of staying in there and keep fighting from the inside?
I cannot have my name attached to certain decisions. I could not. I would not. I cannot. When you know better, you can't. I could not. There's no way.
So I mean, we've been talking about a lot of the problems going on. I mean, but at the end of the day, we're in business. Like, here's the problem, but here's the solution. I got this shit. You know, what are some solutions that you have?
Solutions would be that, for starters, there's a lot of adults and a lot of young adults in Morgan County that have unfortunately been failed, and I know you've been failed. I know, unfortunately, I know how much you've been failed and how much this community has failed you for fucking decades. There's more that can be done. Whether it be that you reported something to a teacher, to anybody, whether it was parents that reported things to districts and then were failed. Personally, I think the CDE form is a bunch of fucking bullshit. And so I've been starting to kind of do some research on what I can do to try to change that form, because I don't think any school district should be allowed to investigate their own staff, because we all know it's almost like we've learned nothing from the Catholic Church, right? Like, oh my God, what? They lied? What the hell? No.
That's a whole different rabbit hole if you want to start going
but
down.
it's just like literally, and it's not just the Catholic Church. Everybody wants to just always point to the Catholic Church, but it's not just fucking the Catholic Church.
Hey, trust me, if we're going to go down religion, we can sit here for fucking 5 hours probably.
No.
Because that's a whole different rabbit hole, because
Yeah.
my perspective, religion divides, not unites.
Yes.
And then that's the whole thing with that. So, I mean, kind of going back to, like you're saying, like, what are some solutions you think that we could, like, offer?
I think we use using, like, there's policies, right? Everybody says there's student handbooks, like, literally.
But then
there's a
those haven't
right
got
way
anywhere,
and
though.
wrong way to go about it. Correct. But a lot of parents are wanting and doing their best to advocate for their children, but we need to start walking in with those policies and saying, hey, based on this policy, this is where you screwed up with my child. And paper trails. Like emails, like you literally email their teachers, and I can guarantee you they're gonna be like, oh, here, let me call you. I'm like, yeah, of course you want to call, because you don't want to write down the answer.
So do you think it's more about parents, just being more involved in it?
I think we, as parents, we just really need to stop kidding ourselves. Like, we need to stop kidding ourselves. We need to, like, these are our kids. Like, your kids' life, like, just because they're in school doesn't mean they're safe. And a lot of times, lack of knowledge, it doesn't mean that we failed our kids. Sometimes it's just a lack of knowledge, and a lot of times I feel like a lot of adults are, acknowledging a lot of our past and our traumas can be very difficult. And for a lot of adults, it's easier to just ignore it and kind of shove it in the back and shove it in the closet and pretend it doesn't happen or that it didn't happen. But we forget that acknowledging, our traumas can help save, our own kids or somebody else's kid. And, whether it be acknowledging somebody near our house or our family or school or whatever. The fact is, it wasn't your fault. A lot of time, generations change, and I've realized that, our mothers and our grandmothers grew up in such a different era where you so much as even mentioned divorced and you were basically shunned, So much of generational things play into where we are now. Like my mom stayed with my dad I don't even understand how she put up with a lot of things, and but it's just because it's been the normal doesn't mean we continue to allow it.
Yeah. And there's also the things that kind of like go into like maybe helping out with like different type of schooling and stuff. It's like having like a school voucher or whatever, because I don't remember who I heard this from, but they said that because there's a lot of people who say like, oh, I went to public schools, I turned out fine and everything, but then it's like we're kidding ourselves if we think that the same public schools we went to are the same ones that are there today.
Not only that, but okay. So I was in Albuquerque before I moved to Brush. Before Brush, I had been basically 2 grade levels above my peers. And, you sometimes look back and you remember things as a kid and you're like, why do I always remember that? And, sometimes it's just because that's like you're supposed to remember it and you're supposed to not ignore it, because ignoring it doesn't benefit anybody. And for me, one of those, I always remembered this class, and I'm like, why was I always in like this random class? It's a fucking ESL.
There you go.
I learned English in a matter of like months. So I've basically been fluent in English since I was 7 years old, and 2 grade levels above my peers. But come to Brush, Colorado, and like none of that fucking mattered. The only thing that mattered was that I was a brown girl with fucking a Spanish last name, and they can get more fucking money out of me, because if you put a fucking Mexican little kid in ESL, then you've got extra fucking funding for your school district. So it didn't matter that I was smarter than, and I could have been capable of more. The only thing that fucking mattered to that district was that they can get more money out of me if they put me in a fucking ESL class.
But then, that's a whole different rabbit hole to go down to. But then that's kind of maybe going down the victim mentality, like they just use me for this too. And
no,
that's
but that's the thing, is we have to acknowledge what our experiences were, because accept them, yes, but it doesn't mean we just cower to them. We can acknowledge them, accept them for what they are. But I've been here, Morgan County, for about since like 6th grade, right? A lot of teachers and administrators that were in school when we were in school that were basically discouraging us from even applying to college just because it's 2023. Like, that fucking racist motherfucker that was there 10 years ago, like, that's still a racist ass motherfucker. And like, that guy is, or girl, woman, whatever, they're still screwing with our kids. Like, just because the laws have changed, just because it's 2023, doesn't mean individuals' mentalities have changed. And you literally have individuals in districts across this nation that have been, in education for 20, 30 years. And if they were hateful and targeting children like 20 years ago, like what makes us believe that they just magically are not targeting children now? Like, they still are.
Yeah, the only difference is now that we're aware that they were, Because if you're not aware of something, you cannot change it. Now we're aware. Now we can change it. We weren't aware, so we couldn't fucking change it.
Correction.
Yes.
We're aware.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why we're aware, so we can fucking change it. They're not aware.
And
that's why we're kind of letting them know.
And that's the whole thing, is like everything has just been like normalized, that so many things are happening and it's not just minorities, it's literally affecting all kids, right? Like, you've got administrators and teachers that are very publicly sharing their views on, even the LGBTQ community. And they're very, very, very open about it. And then those individuals are leading public schools and not checking their religious beliefs at the door. Like, if that's your religious belief, all the more power to you. However, if you're a principal at a public school, you check your goddamn religious beliefs at the door, because your religious beliefs should not be affecting children. You should not be going through and editing children's genders. You should not be going through and targeting individuals because you don't agree with their sexual preferences. You should not be targeting children for any reason, like, because your Bible tells you so. Like, either check them at the door or go find yourself a private institute to lead, because that, like, literally, they are very openly telling us how they feel about our children. And it's like we're reading it and we're seeing it and we're looking the other way.
Yeah, I think it is important to separate like the gender issue with like religion issue, because really a lot of times they do get mixed up together, but I feel like that's two separate issues. Like, a lot of the parents see this stuff happening on the news, like, oh, it's happening on the news, cool, but it's not happening in my small town. It's very interesting though, because we had a lady on a while ago that she was running for an office in Boulder, and all this that you're describing was happening over there. And a lot of times, like, people only think like, oh, it's happening over there. It's not happening here.
How long was that ago?
A couple months, not too long ago.
And now it's here.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's everywhere. Because just because it's 2023,
it's just a wave that starts going
doesn't
down,
mean they haven't figured out how to, like, play the system to their benefit. Mm-hmm. There are so many systems that are failing children across this nation.
Yeah. What are some final words you have for the people listening here today, the audience, or people who you actually kind of want to direct this at?
What's you for 2023? Let's hear it. What do you got going on?
Running for school board again?
No, definitely not school board. I feel like school board definitely was a huge eye opener for things. Whether you don't have to be on the school board to be making a difference in kids and families' lives, and I've realized a hell of a lot of things, and I've realized how they're screwing with kids. I've realized how normalized we have become to our children being bullied by their teachers and administrators. Like, it's awful. Like, it's awful.
So if people want to know a little bit more about your follow your story, where can they find you?
Right now, I guess on Facebook. I don't know.
I think you're going to be making some waves.
Just keep an eye out for me, because there's definitely the whole thing is that when you operate ethically and within the law, before you know it, there's a hell of a lot of things that can be shared. And whether I'm on this earth or not, I have ensured that anything and everything that I could do was done. And every phone number, every organization that I can think of contacting has been contacted. And I would really, really, really want for not only Morgan County parents to really just, like, let's stop kidding ourselves. Just because we think it's not happening to our child doesn't mean we're right. And it's still kids. Kids need us to do better. Kids need adults to do better. And, like, we're fucking adults. Like, we're literally intimidated by who? Like, motherfucker, like, I got punched in the fucking face by a grown man, like, repeatedly as a child. Like, fuck you. Like, do you really think you intimidate me? Like, you probably have never even been hit. Like, you probably can't even throw a hit. So I'm not intimidated by some fucking douchebag.
That's funny. That's exactly how it is, straight up. But guys, for sure, you're gonna be wanting to check out Alejandra's stuff. She's stirring up the can of worms for sure, and we're gonna keep
in an appropriate way.
No, yeah,
because that's the only way.
Legal
that's
way.
the only way to truly benefit children. Like, you can't play their game. You can't give in to their fucking corrupt tactics. Like, rise fucking above it, because kids need us to do better.
Yeah. No,
There,
for sure.
there you guys have it. For Alejandra, thank you for coming on the podcast with us and sharing a little bit of your story and shining a light on what's going on in here locally too.
Yeah, respect for you opening all this stuff and all the stuff you're doing, for sure. Appreciate it, and told you guys it was going to be a good one. Of course,
Thanks
questioning
for
stuff.
having me.
How we like to question stuff.
Oh, and if any parent, like Morgan County, Colorado, I guess I could say for now Morgan County and any parent in Colorado, because those are the laws I'm more familiar with. If you have reported anything, whether it was you as a child, whether you were failed as a child, whether your child was failed, if you would like to help get these goddamn fucking predators out of our school districts, let's fucking do this. Like, let's flood CDE. What CDE can't like ignore hundreds or thousands of fucking forms. I've got 10 fucking forms already printed out with people's fucking names ready to go. Like, let's do this.
Well, we'll put your links down in the description. That way, if people have a question, they can like send you a message, or like maybe you can make a post about it. Like, hey, here's the form or whatever.
Alejandra, and then the number 4 change@gmail.com.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So once again,
Perfect.
Thank you for coming out here.
We can figure it out, whether it be that you just need, like, hey, what website, whatever. Let's get our heads together and let's make a difference for these kids.
Couldn't have said it any better, honestly. Like Alejandra said, let's be better for our kids. So with that, guys, just remember that our motto here on the podcast is that an act of rebellion is to question. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Boom. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated.